You believe you're not racist because you've never insulted anyone for their skin color. You think racism ended because you don't see "no blacks allowed" signs anymore. You're certain you live in a just society because the law says everyone is equal. But what if I told you that you're completely wrong? What if the most dangerous racism wasn't the one that screams, but the one that whispers? Frantz Fanon, the psychiatrist who dissected colonialism's soul, has something disturbing to tell you. The racism you don't see is exactly what controls you most. You know that feeling of discomfort when a young black man enters the elevator late. At night, that involuntary grip on your purse, you swear it's not prejudice, it's just caution. But why doesn't the same caution appear with a young white man? Fanon would say, you've been trained, not by words of hate, but by centuries of a structure that taught you, without you realizing, who to fear and who to trust. Structural racism doesn't need your hatred, it only needs your normality. You think the problem is individual, that we just need to educate the ignorant and everything will be solved. But what to do when the educational system itself was built on buried bones? When the history you learned in school was written by the victors? When even the way you think about yourself was shaped by those who colonized you? Fanon lived this in his skin, literally. Born in Martinique, educated in France, he discovered he could speak perfect French, dress like a European, think like a Western philosopher, but it only took entering a room to be reduced to one single thing: his blackness. This isn't a comfortable conversation. If you came here expecting validation, I'm sorry. Fanon isn't here to make you feel good. He's here to rip the blindfold from your eyes and show that the racism you publicly condemn is the same one you privately perpetuate, not out of malice, but out of something much worse, out of habit. And before you close this video thinking it's not about you, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you questioned why the skin color crayon is always beige? If you're willing to face the uncomfortable answers, subscribe, hit the like button, and stay until the end. Because what comes next might forever change how you see the world and yourself. Society taught you that racism is about individual hatred. Bad people who say bad things. The KKK, neo-Nazis, that uncle who makes uncomfortable jokes at family dinners. You learned that as long as you don't use slurs, as long as you have black friends, as long as you vote for the right politicians, you're one of the good ones. This comfortable narrative lets you sleep at night. It tells you that racism is a character flaw, a moral failing of backwards individuals who just need to be educated or eliminated. But this is the greatest lie modern society ever sold you. Think about how you learned about racism. It was always presented as something from the past or something that happens elsewhere. Slavery ended, apartheid fell, the civil rights movement won. Sure, there might be some isolated incidents, some bad apples, but the system itself, the system is colorblind. The system is fair. The system rewards merit regardless of skin color. You can be anything you want to be if you just work hard enough. This is what they told you, and you believed it because the alternative was too horrifying to contemplate. But here's what they didn't tell you. Every institution you trust was built during times when racial hierarchy wasn't questioned, but assumed. Your universities that now preach diversity were founded when black people were property. Your police departments that promised to protect and serve were created to catch runaway slaves. Your medical system that claims to treat all patients equally was built on experiments performed on black bodies without consent. Your entire economic system accumulated its foundational wealth through centuries of unpaid labor. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are historical facts you can verify, but you won't, because knowing this would mean admitting that you've been complicit in something monstrous without even realizing it. The myth says racism is about feelings. If you don't feel racist, you're not racist. If you don't intend harm, you cause no harm. If you treat everyone the same, you're part of the solution. But Fanon saw through this comforting delusion. He understood that racism isn't primarily about what's in your heart. It's about what's in your systems, your institutions, your unconscious assumptions. It's not about the names you call people. It's about the names that appear on job callbacks. It's not about where you tell people to sit. It's about where they can afford to live. It's not about how you feel about black people. It's about how society has structured itself to ensure certain outcomes, regardless of anyone's feelings. You live in a cage you cannot see. Every day, you make thousands of micro-decisions based on racial programming you don't even know exists. When you cross the street at night, when you choose a neighborhood to live in, when you swipe left or right on dating apps, when you decide which resume looks professional, you think these are free choices, personal preferences, individual tastes. But Fanon would show you the invisible strings attached to every movement you make. You're not a person making choices. You're an actor performing a script written centuries before you were born. Picture this. A black executive walks into a boardroom. He speaks 3 languages, has 2 degrees from Ivy League schools, wears a suit that costs more than most people's monthly rent. But watch carefully. Watch how he modulates his voice to sound less threatening. Watch how he's careful never to show anger, even when justified. Watch how he laughs a little too loud at jokes that aren't funny. Watch how he must perform a carefully choreographed dance to make white people comfortable with his presence. This isn't paranoia. This is survival. Because he knows that the moment he drops the mask, he stops being a colleague and becomes a threat. Now, picture yourself. You think you're free from this performance, but you're just playing a different role. When you speak, you don't have to think about whether your accent makes you sound intelligent. When you're angry, you're just having a bad day, not representing your entire race. When you succeed, it's because of your hard work. When you fail, it's just your individual failure. You move through the world wrapped in an invisible armor you don't even know you're wearing. This is what Fanon called white privilege. Not wealth, not success, but the ability to be seen as human without having to prove it every single day. The prison is everywhere and nowhere. It's in the algorithms that show you certain ads based on your zip code. It's in the AI that's more likely to misidentify black faces as criminal. It's in the teacher who unconsciously calls on white students more often. It's in the doctor who takes black pain less seriously. It's in the bank loan officer who demands more documentation. It's in the real estate agent who doesn't show certain properties. None of these people wake up thinking, I'm going to be racist today. They're just following patterns, responding to biases, perpetuating systems. The prison doesn't need guards when the prisoners police themselves. Frantz Fanon wasn't just another philosopher writing from an ivory tower. He was a black man who lived the schizophrenia of colonial existence. In Black Skin, White Masks, he exposed how racism doesn't just oppress bodies, it colonizes minds. He discovered something terrifying. The oppressed don't just suffer under racism, they internalize it. They begin to see themselves through the eyes of their oppressors. They learn to hate their own reflection. They bleach their skin, straighten their hair, change their names, abandon their languages. Not because someone forces them to, but because they've been taught that whiteness is the price of admission to humanity. But Fanon went deeper. In The Wretched of the Earth, he revealed how colonialism creates what he called a Manichaean world, a world divided into zones. The zone of the colonizer is clean, orderly, rational. The zone of the colonized is dirty, chaotic, emotional. These aren't just physical spaces, they're psychological territories that persist long after the colonizers have gone home. Look at any city today. Look at how the poor neighborhoods are policed versus the rich ones. Look at how urban became code for black and dangerous. Look at how suburban means white and safe. The colonial map still shapes our mental geography. Fanon understood that racism operates through what he called epidermalization, the process by which social inequalities are literally written onto skin. You don't choose to be black or white, but society assigns meanings to these categories that determine your entire life trajectory. From the moment you're born, your skin color places you on a predetermined path. Statistical probabilities attach themselves to your body. If you're black, you're more likely to die in childbirth, more likely to attend underfunded schools, more likely to be arrested, more likely to be unemployed, more likely to die young. These aren't coincidences. They're the logical outcomes of a system designed to produce exactly these results. The most devastating insight Fanon offered was about recognition. He argued that in a racist society, the colonized subject seeks recognition from the colonizer, but this recognition is always a trap. When a black person succeeds in a white world, they're seen as exceptional, articulate, not like the others. This apparent compliment is actually violence. It reinforces the idea that blackness itself is inferior and that individual blacks can transcend their blackness by adopting white ways of being. But this transcendence is an illusion. You can never become white enough to escape the fundamental dehumanization. You can only become a better performer in your own oppression. This is the moment where you want to defend yourself. Your mind is racing with rebuttals. But I'm not like that. But things have changed. But I have black friends. But I voted for Obama. Stop. Just stop. This defensiveness you're feeling, that's your programmed self protecting the comfortable lie. Fanon would tell you that your very need to prove you're one of the good ones reveals how deeply the structure has infected you. You're not defending yourself. You're defending the system that benefits you. You think you're an individual with your own thoughts, preferences, and choices. But are you? When you see a group of young black men, your body tenses before your mind even processes. Why? When you hear certain music, you make assumptions about intelligence and values. When you see certain names on resumes, you form opinions about cultural fit. You didn't choose these reactions. They were installed in you through years of media representations, family conversations, educational curricula, social interactions. You are not who you think you are. You are what a racist structure needed you to become to perpetuate itself. Here's what really terrifies you. If racism is structural, not individual, then your personal goodness doesn't matter. You can be the nicest person in the world, donate, do all the right causes, say all the right things, and still be part of the problem, because the problem isn't your intentions. It's your position in a system that grants you advantages you never asked for, but accept every day. Every time you cash in on your privilege without questioning it, you're co-signing the system. Every time you stay silent when you could speak up, you're complicit. Every time you choose comfort over confrontation, you're choosing the side of oppression. The real crisis isn't recognizing that racism exists. It's recognizing that you exist within racism. You breathe it, benefit from it, perpetuate it, even as you condemn it. Your education, your job, your neighborhood, your social circle, everything that makes you feel secure and successful might be the product of systems designed to exclude others. That networking connection that got you the interview, that generational wealth that paid for college, that zip code that got you into a good school. None of it was neutral. All of it was racialized. You didn't earn your place in a meritocracy. You won a lottery you didn't even know you were playing. But here's where Fanon offers something unexpected. Hope. Not the cheap hope of colorblind fantasies or post-racial delusions, but the hard hope of transformation through truth. He believed that once you see the structure, you can't unsee it. Once you understand how you've been programmed, you can begin to deprogram yourself. This isn't about guilt. Guilt is just another way the system neutralizes threats to itself. This is about clarity, about seeing the world as it actually is, not as you've been taught to see it. The path forward isn't comfortable. It requires what Fanon called absolute violence, not physical violence, but the violence of tearing down every assumption you've ever held about yourself and society. It means questioning why your friend group looks the way it does. It means examining why certain neighborhoods feel safe and others don't. It means asking why your company's leadership is monochrome. It means stopping every time you're about to say, "I don't see color," and asking yourself what you're really trying not to see. It means understanding that your discomfort with these questions is nothing compared to the daily discomfort of those who can't escape their skin. You can choose to close this video and return to the comfortable lie. You can tell yourself that this doesn't apply to you, that you're different, that you're already doing enough. The system is counting on that. It survives because good people convince themselves that their goodness is enough. But if something in you recognizes the truth in these words, if something in you feels disturbed, unsettled, called out, listen to that feeling. That's your humanity trying to break free from the structure's grip. Real change doesn't start with marches or hashtags or diversity training. It starts with the terrifying personal work of deconstructing your own mind. It starts with admitting that you are not immune to the poison you've been breathing all your life. It starts with understanding that anti-racism isn't a badge you earn, but a practice you commit to daily. It starts with seeing that the structure isn't out there. It's in here, in your neurons, in your reflexes, in your assumptions. Fanon spent his life showing us that we are not condemned to repeat the patterns of the past. The structure is powerful, but not invincible. It requires our participation to survive. Every time you question instead of assume, every time you listen instead of defend, every time you choose discomfort over complicity, you strike a blow against the machine. You are not who the structure made you to be. You can become who you choose to become. If this lit a fire in you, don't let it die. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel for more conversations that challenge everything. You think you know? Because the revolution Fanon envisioned doesn't start in the streets. It starts in minds brave enough to think differently. The question is, are you brave enough to be one of them?